again. As you recall from our first 3 lessons, we drew a box in 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point perspective. Here we go for 1 point, 2 point, 3 point. We put flaps on them, we shaded, etc. Well, that was to give you an idea as to how to draw boxes on a flat surface, making them look 3-dimensional. Now we're going to work on a 1 point perspective again, but instead of a box, we're going to draw a city. If you've ever been in a city, you'll notice most of the buildings look like really big boxes. Maybe different sizes, but they usually look like boxes. And that's what we're going to do. And before I start, please let me let you know that the reason I'm wearing sunglasses is that this particular screen emits some light. To make sure the video comes out correctly, we use very bright lights on me and the TV. And unfortunately, I don't handle the bright lights that well, so I wear these sunglasses. Plus, somebody said it kind of makes me look cool, so I figured, well, why not? May as well continue. Don't get that opportunity that often. So let's start with a 1 point cityscape. So to start is, we draw the horizon, as we always do. We can put it at the bottom, in the middle, or at the top. Here I put it toward the middle. You can do it either way, it doesn't make any difference. But let's start toward the middle. The other thing we can do is, for the vanishing point, I could put it here, here, where it is now, here, here, or anywhere else on the horizon inside the picture. The focus will just be different. It's like you're standing with a camera on one side of the street or the other, as opposed to more in the center. Now when you're looking down this line, you see that this street continues on and turns into almost a dot far away. That's like when you're driving along a long highway in the desert. You look straight ahead on a straight road. It looks so tiny, it's like a dot. Well, that's what's happening here. As you pass streets along the way, the streets that are closer to you will be wider. The ones who are further are a little narrower, which is why you have 2 different widths. So it makes you look like you're looking into the picture. Remember I said that buildings are like blocks. Well, here's our first block. You can start by putting a dot at the corner and make sure that you don't put the dot in the street, because then the building will be in the street, which is not possible. So you want to rise it a little bit above where the edge would be, where the sidewalk would be. And that's why I have this line around here. So this is where you start. You draw a vertical line and you start the bottom of a box, just like we did in the 3 box drawings we did. Using the vanishing point, I drew the top, and then the only other lines you use beyond those from the vanishing point are either vertical or horizontal. Everything else has to go or start at the vanishing point. So you see, I'm going to put more buildings on it. I thought, well, let's see, I'll experiment. I decided to put 1, 2, 3, 4 dots on this side, so those will be the corners of buildings on that side of the street. I put 3 more dots here for buildings on this side, so each side will have 4 buildings. And again, don't make them all the same size or shape. So the first thing we do is the corner of the buildings, we draw horizontal, or not horizontal, vertical lines. Notice I have fairly tall, tall, shorter, fairly tall because it's in the background, and low. We want the buildings to vary. I did these 2 buildings. You use the vanishing point that goes here and here, here, and here. So now we have the buildings on either side. I kind of like that format because it frames the picture. You are now focusing your eye toward the middle of the picture, which is where I want it. I completed 2 more buildings. Here's one, here's the other. And again, using the vanishing point here, and then vertical lines or horizontal lines. And notice you can't draw the building through the other building. So it has to stop right there because that's the front building. Then I put another building back here. I made it a different shape. This is short and squatty. This one's taller and narrower. Then I put more buildings in the back here, and you notice that it looks like a reasonable street. All the buildings are not the same. It makes it interesting for your eye to view. The other thing I did was, in cities, streets will go many different directions. Just because this street's head this way doesn't mean there are other streets going that way. You could have streets going all directions. Instead of drawing every building as a box, I just did a silhouette for something in the background. You notice that it looks like a fuller city. And then I put a second layer after that. Do you notice how it looks like a busier city? Now, on your own, you can try shading this. Let me give you some hints. The buildings way in the background should be light. If you're using pencil, use light gray. As you get closer, make these darker. And then for the buildings closest to you, put in details. Experiment with that. In the next lesson, you're going to see the actual results. But in the meantime, work on this on your own. I want to show you what you can do. When you get skilled at drawing cities, in your mind, you can picture where the vanishing point is, and you can draw cities freehand. I did this freehand. It was on a little sketch pad. Remember I've told you carry a sketch pad? You just get ideas, and I made this city, or actually the street in a city. I wanted to make it a little more rustic, and that's why you see it's a single point. I'm not the only one. Famous artists do this. Look at this scene. If you don't know the artist, this is a Van Gogh. You've probably seen it's a very popular work. And again, this is a one-point cityscape. If you take a look closely at it, you follow the lines here, and you see that the vanishing point is somewhere in this area. Again, one-point perspective. Beautiful use of color and texture by the thick paint and the brush strokes. It's a very beautiful picture, and again, one point which you are now able to do after you practice.